Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. It is time for Fright Night. Well, it's a little weird because it's happening in the late morning, but work with me here. Work with me here. Fright Night 8, we have our top 8 competitors. We're going to find out who takes home the crown. Now, this is, of course, Tiny Terrors. What's Tiny Terrors? Only commons and uncommons are allowed to be used. We saw some interesting tactics yesterday throughout the Swiss rounds from a variety of different players, and after duking it out, we have our final 8 who are going to play off in single elimination, best 2 of 3 to determine who is, in fact, the tiniest terror. It's been a lot of fun, but before we get into the games as players are squaring away their map picks, there are no bans for this particular event. I just have to let everybody know at the start that I am, of course, part of the content affiliate program. That means I get coffee for producing Phobies content. Now, I also want to point out that the devs are, of course, providing prizes for these events. Our top 8 players are going to be walking away, splitting 4,000 coffee among them in decreasing intervals. Of course, first is getting the most. Just got to throw that out there at the beginning so people know some context. So I'm watching the players put everything together, and we'll see when we're ready to go. Well, we do, in fact, have the first game we're going to observe today, zoning into the big house. We have Bader here, Bader, again, forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong, versus A-Trend. Both players are absolutely recognizable if you've been playing this game for some time. Now, it looks like the big house was A-Trend's pick, so our blue player here chose to go first. The rules for this are, again, no map bans this time around. So how do we determine this? Well, we flip a coin. There's a bot that handles it. Whoever wins the flip chooses the map. Whoever lost the flip then chooses to go first or second. And then the loser of the first game is then going to choose the next map. And the winner will choose who goes first. And then if there's a game 3, switch again. It felt like the simplest way to address the situation, since we obviously have to have someone go first, someone go second, and also selection of the map. And I didn't want to complicate it with having to have map bans and that sort of system for this particular format. What is this format? As mentioned earlier, this is Tiny Terrors, only common and uncommon. Many more corns today. So I'm just double checking to make sure that there's nothing going on with the other players, that they're all getting underway. Welcome, welcome. Oh, that reminds me. So if I apologize if you hear no sound, it's because I'm clicking out just to double check what's going on. Just swapping between a few different screens. I only have so many monitors. I can't have everything up simultaneously. So we're getting a rather aggressive push from our blue player here, trading out 1 keys because ultimately, yes, this cat is going to eat it, but the follow-up is boom. This is kind of bold. I can absolutely understand a smaller key investment. A couple 1 keys here and there. Obviously, we're getting a Contortio's follow-up here. But remember, no snowball and no jar. So this Contortio is relatively safe. You can't just go, oh, send in the cat and then snipe this. The relationships between different phobies and how different parts of the game work absolutely change when we're talking only commons and uncommons. Now, A-Trend here appropriately backing off with the unicorn. Otherwise, we've got a big old boom right in the face. And another common phobie, well, uncommon, but common in this format. And really all formats, Klepto. Now, our blue player here banked up to 7. What are they going to do here? What is the game plan? DT, welcome. Crush more. All right, we got to crush more. I mentioned the timer earlier. I'm not sure why I was messing around with the timer. Probably force of habit, because in best 2 or 3 rounds, I tend to set a 75-minute timer, but we, of course, cannot have draws here. We have to actually play it out. I don't expect that we're going to have any issues with somebody dragging the game out unnecessarily. Our players are very well-mannered, always, throughout the entire event. It actually is impressive that whenever you get a group of people together, right, there's always going to be disagreements, and of course, when you add a level of competition, there's definitely going to be more people, we'll say more heavily invested. And as a result, we have had an enormous amount of civility. People are absolutely competing. They're absolutely trying to win, but they're also being good people, which is important. It's very easy to lose sight of those sort of things and very easy to slip into, we'll say, bad attitudes. I've been around competitive scenes for a variety of games, some better, some worse, for decades now, and you see all different kinds. However, the Phobies community, as pretty much always, is awesome. Shout out to the Phobies community, shout out to all the competitors, and of course, shout out to our top 8 competitors. As we're watching a little bit of a standoff here, panic point advantage for our blue player, 4 keys to 5 available, of course, many more in reserve. Just checking Discord real quick. Innocuous. Can't really be surprised by this, to be perfectly honest. You can't really be surprised. I mean, what else are you going to do? Innocuous is just too good in too many situations to not be utilized. I feel like I need a little bit more coffee, chat. I'm feeling very Vendy. Feeling a little Vendy right now. So we get the Innocuous to match. Neither player has maxed out 4-4 Phobies. Of course, we're probably going to see a trade out here occasionally for the 1 keys. A-Trend debating between exposing the corn to, I guess, this boom. The problem is if the boom ever connects, of course, it's dealing 550 damage. That's going to remove a significant chunk of the unicorn's health. The thing is that, to be honest, I could see value in baiting the hits. The corn from our blue player are going to have to commit in order to kill the corn after the boom connection. If you do that, they're going to get wiped off the face of, I was going to say the earth, but Phobie land, because Klepto, Innocuous, even this 1 key, there isn't going to be much follow-up. But you can presumably kill at least one of these. Now, the trade exchange may then favor our blue player because of the displacement effect of dimensionals, but we'll have to see how this plays out. A max out here, obviously, we want to, as the blue player, they're trying to get this swap back in to reclaim the points. We're devolving into this 1 key trading war, which I didn't see too much of yesterday. Yeah, it came up occasionally, but it feels as though it happens much more in regular games. Regular games, of course, being mainline Phobies, whether it's ladder, whether it's other Fright Nights, whether it's whatever. Got to rearrange my desk. I got a little bit of water and some coffee, but the coffee cup is running dry. It is, of course, Sunday. I don't want to load up on too much caffeine, be unable to sleep. And then, yeah, Friday, or Monday, Friday. I wish we could just skip through the week and go right to the Friday. But Monday workloads when you're exhausted, less than desirable. There's the boom hit. Is this worth it? I have to imagine that was just out of frustration to a degree. The reason I say that is clearly, okay, maybe they're going for it. I think our blue player had to have calculated this. I don't hate the boom. I don't know. I don't hate this play, but I don't really like it. The reason I don't like it is this doesn't represent, like, you're going to, as a trend, you'll be able to kill this cowbell trivially, recap the point, and now you've incinerated 2 keys to be in a losing position. This does not seem worth. I get the sense that I'm sensing a little desperation from our blue player here. It just doesn't feel like they are. It doesn't feel like they're really comfortable with this situation. It's maybe not. Maybe desperation is too strong of a descriptor, but this doesn't seem good. 7 keys now. All that's remaining for our blue player to 9. Admittedly, only 6 immediately available for our orange player. But if you trade this down, we're basically at, I mean, the corn is a little bit damaged, but we're going to trade out 1 keys. It'll be a panic point advantage for blue, but blue is down keys. I guess they're only down ultimately by 2 keys. The reason I say that is you can trade in, or up, they're down by 1 key rather. Yeah, because you'll have 8 here. This tickles, this Bachelor dies, Tickles replaces, you kill the Tickles, Tickles comes in, replaces, and then we're back to square one. So it is still fairly even. One of these players is going to have to make a decision. I imagine this Crushmore is going to be involved. The problem here is, because of the Klepto positioning with the lob, you can't segment Atren's forces the way you typically would like to. I've seen a number of Gravedigger and Crushmore plays on this map in a variety of games where players are able to lock down these spaces or just segment the board in a way such that they can isolate their opponent's team and prevent them from really doing anything. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be possible here, given that the Klepto's already in position. It won't kill, but it'll put a major hurt on this Crushmore. Now the deliberation begins. One of these players is going to have to make a move if this trend continues. I don't know offhand how many more 1 keys are still available, because we've chewed through a number of them. Because remember, Sockassin and similar higher rarity 1 keys are not illegal phobies. They cannot be played in this series. So we may be hitting that equilibrium sooner rather than later, that someone's going to have to commit and make something happen. Now, Atren here invests a whole bunch of their remaining keys into their own Crushmore, now with the lob advantage. Clearly the Tickles is going to bite the dust. Bachelor comes in, but here's the moment of truth. How is our blue player going to respond? How are they going to make this work? Cassowary is the follow-up. That is 5 Phobies on the board, maxing out our blue player. Probably not for very long. Stabby plus Clinico, I think that would have been good. I meant to comment on it earlier, but Clinico has actually played a very crucial role in a whole bunch of games yesterday, because it isn't as easy to just simply annihilate the Clinico, where it gets 1 heal and then it just doesn't live. It's way more difficult to try and eliminate the Clinico, and therefore it tends to get a lot more value over time. It's also one of the few healers that's available in this format. Now, our orange player here taking an aggressive play, breaking the block in order to free up space and set up this unicorn. This is potentially very ballsy. Final keys are invested into Cassowary. This is risky because if there is a trap here, which there shouldn't be, but if there was a trap here, that's a massive setback. But we kind of know there's no trap. We've seen too many things get traded back and forth. The corn was never really in position, and voila. The corn is now popcorn. All right, we're getting the invade from our blue player here. Just double checking. One of the other series has finished game 1, so I'm just following up to make sure we're getting the results. Creep is burning 2 of the final keys. It looks like our blue player really wants to fight for this positional advantage and then just kind of sit back on what's presumably a a minefield over here thanks to the unicorn and, of course, the innocuous. Bouncy Phobies, welcome, welcome. Apologize, trying to jump between a few different things, so I missed that one. Getting the aggressive invade to take it down. This is not looking great for our blue player because that's a lot of health. Oh no, we're not taking the aggressive line here. What would have been the counterattack? I guess there would have been enough damage to eliminate the Klepto. 800 here, 1600, plus either a poison spit or whatever equals dead Klepto, and then you're not really in position to counterattack. Are you? I think you would not have been just because we're assuming a whole bunch of corn traps, so you would have had to dive the innocuous, which probably then yields a dead Crushmore, and then it would have been innocuous Cassowary versus Creep Crushmore, apparently Eternal Night. I kind of like the Eternal Night here. Aside from representing a significant amount of damage, I know 440 doesn't seem impressive when most people are now well beyond that from a level perspective. But remember, that's more than Klepto. That's more than Innocuous. That's more than Crushmore. That's more than Cassowary. And on top of it, you get the dimensional damage. But we are going to get an aggressive push, it looks like, into... Ooh, I like this. I like this because you're going to get a leap. Where's that leap going to land? Eliminating the creep. This is a great 2-for-1 play, or what I believe is going to be a 2-for-1, because I don't believe there's going to be enough damage in order to kill... Yeah, there's just not enough damage to kill the Crushmore. Or the Klepto, for that matter. They will get beat to crap, but you have to choose between either heavily damaging or killing. You can't do both. This now flips the panic point situation, and unfortunately our blue player is going to be forced into advancing into the waiting arms of this army. Keep in mind there's also cute plays that can be made. For example, if our orange player decides to block here and then retreat, that forces everything to rotate, because you're not going to be able to come up and cleanly break this block. You could then position Klepto, because the Crushmore is going to have to walk up and break. You could position the Klepto such that you can beat on it. Now, there are other ways around it, of course. You can move and break this block, but a lot of advantages are now in our orange player's hands. And they said, I'm going for it. I'm ending this game aggressively. 1,500 health, this is not going to be enough to kill this. It should only be 1,200 damage. Yeah, I kind of expected we were going to get an undo there. That seems a little aggressive. So the block goes in the north. That cuts off these two Phobies, unless, of course, Crushmore comes in, as mentioned, and tries to break one of these. And here's the thing. Even if Crushmore comes up and breaks this, it's exposed. The corn has to rotate to only allow the Innocuous to get in. Now, this obstacle won't last for very long. Let's be real. There's at least 4 attacks here. Of course, they could move things. But this is going to be a tough nut to crack for our blue player. They do have time. 4k health, and remember, only 200 damage from these panic points per turn. We're not looking at an enormous amount. I don't know about this one. Honestly, I think I was about to say, I think our blue player is dead in the water. Game 1 goes to A-Trent. So we're going to jump into another game. What a waste of a mountain. He never uses ability. Yeah, that was a tough Crushmore. I mean, the answer Crushmore from A-Trent never, didn't really use an ability until, well, no, it used to, I guess. I was going to say it only used the one late in the game, but it did break the other block earlier on. It's tough. If you make your button Phobies that have an ability, an activated ability to use, into just dummy stat sticks, doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good. So we have our game here between Trickingly, which is an egregiously difficult name to say, versus Tigi USA. I'm not sure which game we are on for this. I believe this is game 2. I will have to check. If I can find it. Oh, I skipped past it. So this looks like it's Trickingly's. Can I just say trick, chat? This is like, it's making my tongue tired trying to say this name. Trickingly. I don't know why I'm having so much difficulty, but this looks like a blue player map pick. Blue player map pick. We're getting some breaks here. Tiny Terrors on Crypto yields a Honey Bear Mirror. Imagine that. Yeah, we may switch from this game. We'll see how this goes. Stay tuned. This is a map that I don't think, people were asking, can we just either ban Crypto from my level or just make a gentleman's agreement that nobody picks Crypto? But we didn't really get a consensus on that. Most people did not reply. So we'll see what happens. Maybe these players have something up their sleeve, but I mean, Honey Bear, Innocuous, some Terraforms, looking real familiar. And remember, there are no Blom effects in Tiny Terrors. Yeah, Crypto, we've talked about it before when Carsticles had done their, well, we talk about map balance all the time, but was Crypto one of the maps we went over? I don't think we talked about the changes to Crypto from Carsticles, but Crypto to me feels like a very version 1.0 map. At the time when the game first released, Crypto was among the first maps, and I think it was fine. However, we're now over a year into the lifespan of Phobies has evolved, players as well as devs. And I think that it is worth doing one of two things. Either reworking old maps such as this, or kind of just jettisoning this map. It's to lengthen the game on the map because you cannot play aggressive. Yeah, you kind of can't. And I think that's one of the lessons is that these... So what's the other map? It's not Home Sweet Home. Is it Billy's Room? I can picture it in my head. Like the heart in the bottom right, heart in the top left, and then stims above and below them, respectively. Like below the bottom right and above the top left. And I've seen a number of aggressive pushes on that map where the other player takes your stim and beats on your heart. I have seen that ending on this map, but that realistically doesn't happen most of the time because you get into these stalemates, and the reason that it does happen is because the game is just over and the losing player is just bullied out of position. This game will probably devolve into trading these 200 damage hits as you trade cooldowns until somebody's grossly out of position or accidentally maxes out with a suboptimal, subpar setup. This seemed frivolous. I don't know why this cat died. If you wanted to send it in as a sacrifice, send it here. Our blue player has this enormous defensive wall set up. Not that our orange players won as much to sneeze at either, but 10 keys to 7. There's a slight key advantage for our blue player. But the big phobies that are available in this format, we're talking 8, 9 keys, are High Five and Barzilla. You're not really going over the top and saying, all right, Slam Boss, Slam Hevo 3.0, I'm going to dive your team because I can do something so spectacular that I can overwhelm your potential defenses. That's not really an option in this format. So it looks like we're just waiting out the cooldowns here. Obviously, there is a gap, hence why I was saying earlier that you have those 200 damage turns. We'll give this another turn, chat, and then maybe we'll jump into one of the other games, see what's going on. I would like to stick with a particular game, but I imagine we're going to be coming back to this one, and it's just going to take forever. Oh, yeah. This is going to be a whole lot of staring. Now, notably, it makes it a little awkward because you can't necessarily puke on this as the orange player. Like, this particular terraform could end up yielding something really advantageous, but we'll see. All right, we're gonna check out another game, chat. All right, this is not on crypto, notably. So we're back looking at A Trend versus Vader here. We actually, ooh, you can see how the game was trying to give us the replay to catch us up to speed on what happened. Ginsting and Cassowary versus a whole slew of Phobies. This is pretty bold from our blue player, I think. Maybe not. It depends on where these traps are placed. It's possible there's a trap here, meaning that a bunch of damage could hypothetically go down onto this Ginsting. My guess is, but the Ginsting should live. There's just not going to be the surface area I think that's required. I take that 8, 12. It's okay. If there was a trap and the Contortio could kill this, you could leap, attack, and AWOL, and I think you kill this. Oh no. What is the follow-up for our orange player? Because I'm not sure I like this. I think you lose 2 of these. I don't think you can lose all 3. Because K9 can, of course, kill this. A combo attack from these 2 will kill here, and you can run away the Ginsting to keep it from being exposed. Leap is down, notably. And we get the Murder Wing follow-up, presumably as a deterrent. A-Trend's very limited on what options can actually come in and try and supplement this force right now. Which may be why they're second-guessing sending the K9 in. Nope. Going right after that. Going right after it. Getting the Cassowary, getting the AWOL, crushing the toe. Very painful. Don't want to do that. The problem is the Contortio here can solo the Ginsting. And then this Murder Wing can escape. However, this puts a lot of pressure onto our orange player to make a very careful decision about whether you want to stay or not. Neither player is willing to bank. Absolutely getting in there, trying to hold on to tempo with both hands. Oh, we're actually going for a meatball here. Unless you're going to walk both of them away. Walk one away. So the meatball presumably is to heal up the Murder Wing. But now, as the orange player, you've ceded control of the middle, which was probably going to happen anyway, given the board state. And you're going to be down another key. 4, 6, 8, 9. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Pretty even on key trades so far. Following up with a cowbell. I get the sense our orange player wants to bank here, but I'm not sure. Okay. A little electric cat action. 420 damage. Pretty significant when we're talking about level 1 versus level 1. Just following up with the other players to make sure everything's going well there. Just checking on the other series. Maybe we can jump into one of those other games after this, but we'll see how it goes. Feels random, welcome. Here's the stabby follow-up the chat was clamoring for in the last game, and I do kind of agree that our orange player would have been better off if they had gone Clinico and possibly stabby or some other follow-up in the last game. Last game that we were observing. Well, 2 games ago now. Staying alive. That is, in fact, a tanky good boy. And the opposing Jin Sting makes an appearance. Our blue player's probably without some eliminations. Like, the cowbell's going to die. Just a question of how. And then they can re-engage when they're ready. All right. And again, I apologize for all the typing and the distractions. This is part of the reason that I don't stream the Swiss, so that I can manage. There's way more players in Swiss than there are in the top 8, as you'd imagine. We, of course, started with 29 players. I actually didn't mention that earlier. 29 players yesterday, and then cut it down to these 8. So there's a lot more that has to be managed during the Swiss, which is part of the reason that I don't stream it anymore. It just makes my life significantly easier. Quick takedown there. 6 keys to 6 keys remaining. This feels like an advantageous position for our orange player despite everything, but this is going to fall apart pretty quickly. Like, this is not going to live. You're going to get some pot shots here on the Jin Sting to soften it up. And the Eternal Night makes a recurring appearance. Oh, you do have to burn the meatball if you want this. And there it is. Meatball goes down. I assume we're going to get a huge amount of damage going into this Jin Sting, and then follow up. But how are the 6 keys going to follow up? 4 remaining for orange. You do need to supplement this, because clearly the Contortio is going to die, similar to the Electric Cat, and then you get double Jin Sting hits and Eternal Night into this stabby. Putting this here, I don't think makes a significant difference. Klepto. All 6 keys are going into a Klepto. Is that what the doctor ordered? As expected, damage going into Stabby, finishing off the Clinico. But the Stabby is still alive. Still alive, I guess. Jin Sting's not long for this world, though. What is our... I don't know what our orange player does to fight this. Creep is the answer. Is it the answer? I don't know. I don't really like that. Since there are 0 keys for our blue player, I wonder if a Clinico and 1 key and then just full-on retreat for our orange player would be valuable. Because any damage onto our blue player is permanent. It's a dead creep. No, not you. Yeah, this can't die. There's not enough there. But any hit onto the stabby now is going to yield death, a displacement, and of course, the dimensional damage. So Klepto, Murder Wing versus these two, basically, because this creep is not long for this world. I imagine the creep is going to be what trades out, because these are out of range, so out of range to get a hit and then reposition. Yep. So creep will eat it. Presumably that's why we saw the undo so quickly. Will it die? That was weird. That was weird. Yeah, our orange player, I think, is discovering that there just aren't really the plays that you want to make. I think it would have been better to... The exchanges early on, I think, did not really favor them in a way that was beneficial. This might be the least bad option, but this is still not going to be great. Because this dies to the... Well, the Klepto may kill all 3 of these, actually. Never mind. In fact, not the least bad option. Granted, they were all bad, but GG, well played. All right, so we're zoning in here with Sisku and Vasey. We're on Opticon, which is another map. I think that's the worst option. Yeah, I realized it after I said it. But wow, is this a new feature? This feels like it's happening more often. I kind of like that the game replays the way it does to catch you up. But chat, we're getting sheep hits. But yes, I realized it after I said it that was not going to work out. For a second, I thought something was going to live. And then it's like, oh, well, you can run around and wait for the poison to tick, and then maybe you get something, but like, it was just never going to happen. Get a little muffin action here. Temptress. Sheep mirror, yep. There can only be one, and apparently it's our blue player sheep that takes the day. For now, anyway. Looks bad for Vasey. I mean, it don't look good. It doesn't look good right now. Granted, there is this tanky phobie plus healer. 5 extra keys compared to our blue player and a panic point advantage. So it's not as though it's complete. Oh no. Yeah, this feels kind of bold. Because Muffin's dead and Clinico's way out of position. That snake needs a buff. Yeah, we talked about that not last night, Friday night with when we were looking at Karsticles' rework / buff nerf tier list or whatever. And yeah, Temptress, there are many phobies that could get changed for a variety of reasons. Nerfs, buffs, reworks, whatever. However, Temptress absolutely feels like the numbers are just too low. I don't understand why the numbers are the way they are. I have to imagine that the devs ran the numbers through a spreadsheet, through some calculator, and said, hey, this is where it needs to be. But it doesn't seem like that's where it needs to be. I'm not going to lie. So instead of Stairmaster, we do in fact get an Innocuous. I mean, besides the Sheep and the Temptress, we're seeing some fairly normal Phobies showing up here. 300 damage is very little. I don't mind. This is interesting. Okay, I'll come back to the Temptress thing, but this, I like this aggressive play from our blue player here. Getting in here, you can't really stay as Vasey, and without Jar, without a Snowball, this Hevo is pretty safe. There's really not much you can do. So you're going to get bullied out of this position, and you lose the AWOL for freezies. I understand the reason for the AWOL. The intent was, oh, well, if they try and come after me, I can probably retaliate and kill something. But that wasn't to be. Now you have to, like, full-on retreat, because if you leave the Clinico exposed, now you're completely out of healers, and this Sheep is going to be an absolute menace. How often do you see that happening? That's fair, eh, Markin? We did have somebody in chat last night that was using Google Translate, so I apologize. I can only do English. I should get my wife to hang out when I stream and see if she can do translations for me. I could learn another language, but it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Yeah, I don't know how Vasey gets out of this. Right now, anyway. Hydra. I don't hate this. I don't hate this. But this is not going to work out well. It's possible, because you can get the Temptress here, Hevo here, Klepto here, and Sheep just for the sake of hitting. And I think this is dead, and then the Hydra can't really do anything. I think you don't hit with the Hevo and walk it away to, like, here. Even then, it probably still dies. But I don't think you want the... This is going to get bad. Oh, okay. Not going after the Hydra. I can respect it. Is that the worst possible circumstance? Because now the Hevo's still alive, and the Klepto gets hits here. Vasey only has 6 keys. There's still a lot of things that can get popped out, but doesn't look good. Notably, this will not on level one-shot a Innocuous. For anybody curious, we were talking about that the other night as well. See, this is why I need more coffee, chat. Five keys to 6. Thunder Rocks. You know, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. See, the Hydra, I think, is going to have to run. I don't know that there's a way to... Well, Spud hasn't been used, so you could go 3 cost something... Spud, or, you know, like, this might be dead, the Temptress, but the counterattack is going to be brutal. Yeah, this is not going to end well. For Vasey, I mean. This doesn't look good. We do get a little Wiggy action. Although, notably, it's not really going to do anything, because this will be able to run away. Alright, so we get the attack going down on Klepto. Basically halving its health. Or not. Really? Honey Bear? Gives a panic point advantage back to our orange player. Turns off the stim, but there might still be lethal damage here. 2,600? That's 1,000 plus 8. That's 1,100 plus 8 is 19. I think there's exactly enough damage to kill this. I think there's exactly enough damage to kill it before you consider Ray. With Ray, this is just over. Like, the Hydra's just... it's done for. Well, doctor for that heart. Okay, so you can't kill the Hydra now. This might be a more valuable takedown, given that your opponent has 0 keys. You can kind of just walk away. But I don't think you want to leave this thing with Clinic. Like, you don't want to damage it and give them value with Clinico, but I guess this is fine. Yeah, this is actually fine, because even if they heal and come after it, you can snipe things. I don't see how Vasey gets out of this from this position. Even with all these Phobies damaged, it's just not going to make a difference. There it is. GG. GG. Here we are, game 3, and we're on crypto. Who did this to us? Who chose this map? Who chose this map? It looks like this was Sisku's choice for this map. I must be looking at that wrong. I'll have to go back and check. But... why? Why are you doing this to us? No one likes this map. Except for Hakune, because Hakune likes every map. Or claims they like every map. This is a... This is a map. This is, in fact, a map. You understand the choice of this map? Just do a hellish third battle? But why? But why? So we are getting a somewhat unique wrinkle in Stabby. It's fine. I'm a little surprised because we have seen for some time in regular Phobies games Gravedigger openers on this map. You can break these obstacles, which allows you to get Corn or Innocuous later on, other things into position a little quicker. You can, of course, lock off one of these spots. You can also, and as mentioned, here's our Terraformer. You get to manipulate the board in different ways. It will also disrupt or aid, depending on how it works out, a later Honey Bear, which I imagine we'll see out of both players. 4 keys available to Vasey, only 3 for our blue player, so Sisku is going to have to find a way to cheat the curve a little bit and get that Honey Bear online if they want to go that route. Because if they don't, let's be real, that Honey Bear is pretty important. Giving up the Honey Bear advantage to your opponent in this format or in general on this map, not a great thing. So after this game, I will speak with the remaining 4 players. What I would like to do is split up the top 4. So we watch one top 4 series, we watch the second top 4 series, and then we watch the finals. That is, of course, going to elongate the tournament length. If players are unwilling to do that, we'll play top 4 simultaneously and then finals. We did try that last Fright Night, and I thought it was definitely a lot of fun, but we had other reasons why that event was moving more quickly. So, of course, each of our players are going to be very deliberate here. because they want to make sure that they're not getting eliminated. These are, of course, single elimination rounds. You lose and you go home. That's how it works. We're at that stage. We have to have a winner. We have to have a final winner. This is actually pretty interesting out of our blue player. Going for Hevo. I think it was DT that was saying yesterday, kind of crapping on the tin can. Maybe relegating them to tin can status. What is that emote? I can't even tell what that is. It's so tiny, I can't see it. But it's interesting that our orange player has instead banked up to 7. What are they going to go over the top with? There is a lobber here, but it doesn't really... I mean, it matters, but it doesn't really matter. The reason being is that we're just going to get 1 key trades into the center until either a honey bear shows up or something else in order to break the parity. Of course, with a terraformer here, our orange player could be positioning to get this, to break this block so that honey bear now turns off 2 points, thereby leaving this one the only one that's contestable. You could set up a block to lock people out. There's a variety of different ways to react. But 4 of those 7 keys are going to go into Innocuous, and we are absolutely looking at the long game. That's up for debate, Master Dark. I don't know that I'll logistically be able to run an event next month. Especially with 6 keys, why not Klepto? Questions. We have them. I don't know. It would be interesting to get the player's perspective. I'm sure there's a 4 key they specifically want, but still, we'll have to see what the justification is. Because here's the question. Let's assume that 4 key is Honey Bear. That's the common 4 key that we were watching that game earlier. Is that worth it here? Would you be better off just slamming the Honey Bear earlier and then, you know, adjusting on the fly to how Vasey responds? Now, neither player is maxed out, so there is the potential that they have a little bit of reaction time, a little bit of reaction space to adapt to whatever their opponent decides to deploy, but I don't know. Hevo's big and tanky, and there is a healing spa on this map, but it is going to take some free hits here, including a hit for 700 damage. No, Atron. That was the only one. For Fright Night 3, the devs did provide those sweatshirts. Every other one has been coffee prizes. And it's honestly just too hot now for me to wear that sweatshirt. We're in the summer months. It's way too warm. It was almost too warm the last time I wore it. Just from drinking too much coffee. I am to this day floored that we do not have more Phobies merch. Even if it's just being done through, you know, whatever the made-to-order sites are. It just seems a little weird that we don't have something that has the Phobies logo, bendy, maybe lippy and a quote, and then, like, razor mouth. I'm not saying a shirt for every phobia or something, but they probably could do that. I'm still a little surprised that that has not materialized. And we get our Honey Bear standoff. 11 keys for our orange player, 9 for our blue player. Everybody, I hope you went to the bathroom and you have a very comfortable seat, because we may be here for a while. That's fair, Atron. So we're just watching everything inch up. I'm double checking some stuff. I'm going to ping the remaining players real quick. Obviously, we're waiting on the winner of this series. I know I'm not missing too much as I'm looking at Discord, because I can kind of see out of the corner of my eye. We're just watching stuff go down, and like I said, we're going to be waiting here for a while to see who makes the first mistake. Hey, Rocket, what's good? I'm happy this won't happen since I can receive an in-game reward, but a real-life reward, I'm pretty sure I won't be able to get it. I speak about the hoodie for Fright Night. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Master Dark. Are you saying that you're happy that it's only in-game stuff, so because you wouldn't place well enough to get it? Or I don't follow what you're saying. Alright, so our first Honey Bear puke goes down. The tardigrade is vomiting everywhere. Eight keys to 10. So, if we assume that this is going to be a one-key trading war, which is completely reasonable, Vasey is at the advantage here. Vasey is at the advantage here, which is what we saw in the first game we observed. First tournament game that we observed on the big house. Getting some musical chairs here onto the stem, that's fine. Now, notably, this Gravedigger is now in position to possibly break this. I don't think we're going to get that level of aggression, because then the Gravedigger dies. I see what you're saying, Master Dark. So we get an invade here. This is a lot of HP. This is 3,800 HP, and notably the Inoculus vacated the stem so that the Unicorn can't hit either of these without repositioning. If you're going to go for that, that is not a bad time for it to happen. Especially because this now allows the Stabby to be in position as well. This is bold. This is bold. I kind of like this. We'll see if this works out, because I don't think there's enough damage here from Vasey to really counterman this aggression. You can't, like, the Inoculus is dead, right? Gravedigger kills this. You probably kill Stabby with a combination of these two. And then these will cling. I think this needed to be here. I think Corn... Did Corn have to attack twice? Corn probably had to attack twice, right? Yeah, because otherwise you wouldn't have killed the what's it called? I would use something like Klepto here. Well, funny story. Our blue player may have made an error here, a miscalculation. This may not work out the way they want it to. Vasey killed a Hevo. That wasn't a bad exchange. Or was it? This is 6 keys for 5. You traded Inoculus for Stabby, essentially. It's kind of what that boiled down to. Was there enough damage to kill the Hevo? 6, 14. Yeah, there definitely was enough damage to kill the Hevo. Then you would have left the Stabby in range, though. Like, the Stabby would... You can't kill the Stabby and the Hevo. But you could have ended up roughly with what... It would have been Unicorn, Gravedigger, Inoculus, with Stabby here. So, like, the Inoculus still dies. And then you left the Stabby on the board. I was about to say, how does this not die? I think that sequencing was wrong because you could have gained a little bit more life. But you gave him the damage to kill the Hevo, and with another Phobie, you protected the alien. Yeah, because the Hevo wouldn't be here. So, yeah, you would end up with basically the same end state, but the Hevo's dead instead, with the Stabby alive. But you would have to, because you don't have the lob, the Inoculus survives. Forcing more trading for the Hevo. I don't know that it matters here. Like, I think Vasey's got this at this point, because just the Hydra alone probably dominates this board. There's not enough damage. Panic point advantage is in Vasey's favor, so our blue player has to get in there. Hey, the real Spine Chill. It's a pretty metal name. Welcome, and thank you for the follow. Yeah, that aggression looked cool. The aggression looked cool from our blue player, but realistically, there's a reason that we typically see very slow burn games on this map from both players. Yeah, at this stage, Vasey is not... There's really no need for Vasey to do anything aggressive. Both players are out of keys. You have a panic point advantage. They do have damage. They do have damage represented. The Hydra is a little weird. I kind of want to see the Hydra here. But it's going to take time, because if you put the Hydra here, it can be softened up by this Klepto. If you put the Hydra here, it can at least threaten, like move up and then threaten this spot. Here, you'd have to walk onto the lava. And because... Is there enough damage here? This is 12. There's not enough damage to kill this Klepto. Certainly not without the stim. I think not getting this Hydra ready for action may have been a mistake. Now the panic points are suddenly flipped. There is, of course, a puke available from Vasey's Honey Bear. This is gonna you're gonna have to direct hit this. I think moving Hydra was more important than moving Honey Bear. Moving Hydra to where? Where the Honey Bear is now, or you think a different position? So yeah, the direct hit had to go down because it was left with 300 health. Had to directly target it, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Now, this is... How much is health? This is 16, so this is 8, 11, 1460. So this Klepto will live. Where the Honey Bear is now, I agree. That's where I was thinking it needed to be. Gesundheit trade with Klepto, I don't think there's enough damage unless I'm miscounting. You got 800 damage here, 1100 damage, and then 1460. Ironically, specifically because of the Honey Bear puke, turning off the lava. It can kill the Honey Bear? Yes. That will yield, or should... Will it? 7... No, that means that this lives. The Klepto will live then if you kill the Honey Bear. Because there's not enough damage to do it with one hit and one hit. I think they're testing to see, because they didn't count it up. I think you kill the Honey Bear. Oh no, don't walk away. I don't think you want to do that. I don't think. Because now Vasey goes here, softens this up, and then walks the Hydra to... We're like... Okay, no, you're going to heal. I was going to say you vomit, turn off the stim, walk the Hydra here, and then Klepto either hits this or is in position to retaliate from some other spot. Don't get me wrong, there's time. There's plenty of time to figure out what you want to do. So maybe playing this long game, get this Klepto healed up. Obviously, if Klepto dies, you're at a massive disadvantage. Yeah, the honey bear. Honey bear, I think you're correct. It would have. The honey bear has a 11. Did it have 11-10? Maybe that's why Sisku didn't go for it. I thought it was. We'd have to. Well, we can't do it now. We'd have to look at the replay. I thought it was in range to kill it, but that may not be true. Because it would be exactly 1100. I thought it was at that. You lose 200 from Splash. Well, you don't have to split. Like, they could have direct attacked it. But it would have only been 1100 damage. So if it had over 1100 health, then yes, it would have tanked it. It was 1110. All right, then yeah, it would have tanked it, and it would have been awkward then. All right, that explains why the honey bear didn't croak on that particular turn. Two to 0 panic point advantage now. Really pushing our orange player to do something. I thought the Hydra was going to put Vasey in a much better position, but it seems to be incapable. All right, yeah, we're going to get the puke here. It does disable the panic point, so it won't flip a 1 to 0 panic point advantage, but it does get the Hydra in position, and it's going to force a retreat from our blue player, because there isn't enough damage to deal 2600. There's a lot of damage, but not 2600 damage. It's going to be close, though. So you could have, with the honey bear, if the honey bear was here, where the Klepto is, you could have puked here, and it keeps the panic point flipped. Because you could turn on, like, it would disable the lava and the stim, but not the panic point. And then you put the Klepto, I get, like, you flip these, I think. I would have sent Honey Bear that way. I mean, the Klepto gets to beat up on everything no matter what. Or, you know, like, the plays from Sisku, I don't think change significantly. Wow, that honey bear is just like getting the hell out of dodge. Here's one of those situations where if Vasey had 3 more keys and a Clinico, this would get real funny real fast, but probably not. Oh my god. Oh, I thought they were going for it. Cool. Because you can hypothetically take this stim, because Sisku is so out of position with his honey bear that they can't stand on the stim. This will be a max health Klepto shortly, but 700 health. 700 damage, rather. Going for the double hit, really? I don't know about that one, Chief. The mud goes away this turn, doesn't it? Because if the mud goes away at the start of Vasey's turn, like, this is going to be brutal. Now, admittedly, maybe Sisku trapped up their own stim or something, but... Alright, that's a dead corn. What do you think, chat? Should Vasey just go heart? Can Vasey end the game? Probably not, right? It might be worth, yeah, taking the spot, because you're not going to dislodge this thing unless there's a trap here, and even if there is, it might not be fast enough. Because how much is that corn trap? 500, the 1300 damage. You don't have the damage to kill this Hydra. That's a stemmed up Hydra, chat. A cool 1,000 damage. I don't know. I think it's going to end up being Klepto and Honey Bear versus Klepto. Unless Vasey decides to just go for the throat. Nope. Did not expect that comeback. I don't think the invade several turns ago went the way that Sisku had wanted. I agree with chat that the response from Vasey was probably suboptimal. However, I don't think it realistically mattered, because you still came out ahead. I don't know if any of this is necessary, but sure. Klepto and Unicorn are forced to move backward to live, so it's basically an orange win. Retreat equals vulnerable heart, and defense would mean a forced lose since Hydra took too much terrain. Yeah. Vasey positioned it well to try and bully their opponent into a specific lineup and a specific position so that able to take the W. But at this stage, I think we can safely call it. I think we can safely call this one. I think this puke was probably unnecessary, and it actively, like... I don't think there's a way for Vasey to throw, but this was not good. You could have puked here if you really wanted to turn off. Well, no, you couldn't because you don't have line of sight. But it doesn't matter. GG. Got him. We have our top 4, chat. Alright, looks like the players are getting ready. And here we go. We're joining a little bit late, but we're getting in here. A. Markin versus Vasey. Gotta switch gears. A. Markin versus Vasey. Getting in here for our first semifinal game. Best 2 of 3 here in Tiny Terrors Fright Night number 8. These players have fought through a lot of fierce competition, and we're going to see what they do. Now, we did miss a little bit of the early turns. As mentioned, looks like some 1 keys went down. We get an aggressive Crushmore invade. This is very, very different from what we've seen in other games. Other crypto games, that is. Now, the Corn Trap plus some Meatballage plus some follow-up could yield a dead Crushmore here. 500, but only 3 keys, so Cassowary is not going to do it. You need a Stairmaster, I think. I don't know if there's anything else that does enough damage this early in the game. There is a healing spa, so you will be able to try and heal up this Crushmore when it retreats. Big issue, of course, is now this Inoculus is in position to threaten this. Now, A. Markin has banked up to 6 keys. Gesundheit can't reach. Also true. Gesundheit could have hit it, but not in range. This is a good play, though. This is just a dead Crushmore. Or is it? We'll have to see if A. Markin decides to go for Clinico or Muffin here, because you can run the Crushmore all the way back. Okay, the Hevo's coming out first explicitly to get it positioned, and then we're going to get a Muffin. Okay. I kind of like the Hevo or something, but I would have liked to have seen a Clinico. It is a level 1 Muffin, puts it up to 800, so it will take 2 hits from this to take it down, or multiple hits from other things. I don't know. This is pretty good posture for A. Markin here. 3 keys, they had to burn everything in order to deploy this team. 4 keys for Vasey. We saw Vasey just moments ago utilize Honey Bear to great effect. This is a dead corn. Just like that, corn is dead. Now, Amarkin does, of course, have their own Murder Wing available, which means this is likely going to be a dead counter corn. However, that means that Vasey is in position to start continuing to pick things off. You know, they could get some pot shots here. They can use the Inoculus to safely brutalize the Murder Wing, or they could just beat the crap out of this. And the follow-up, all 4 keys get invested in sheep. Apparently it's the day of the sheep and gas, chat. Apparently it's the day of the sheep and gas. Oft maligned in regular Phobies. Drops off very quickly when you're playing the ladder. That could be a dead Murder Wing, but that's probably a dead Hevo on the counterattack if you do that. Don't quite have the break available, so you can't do something cute like break this and run something in, or retreat to a more defensible position. But the Panic Points have now swapped back to our orange player thanks to this aggressive push. Maxed out on Phobies, though, notably. 3 keys for Clinico would feel bad with the spa right there. While I agree, it's going to take several turns for the Crushmore to get back into position. And additionally, this Clinico means that the Crushmore is never really safe, because the Clinico can poke at it on the spa from a, you know, like, not an unassailable position, but clearly a very defensible one. I mean, even here, we're looking at, hey, like, where is this Crushmore supposed to go right now? Definitely doesn't feel good if you have to Clinico and there's a spa on the board, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Now, Amarkin did bank to 6. Vasey is going to do the same thanks to being maxed out. And as we mentioned before, there isn't an obvious top end. It isn't just, oh, slam boss ball game. It isn't just, you know, any of those sort of things. You have to really be cautious about what you're trying to do. So Amarkin playing it patiently, deploying their own Inoculus, 3 Phobies to this maxed out team. Now, I don't think there's a good way for Vasey to try and get a triple Panic Point advantage to really bully this. But I guess you could. You could sacrifice the creep, hypothetically. Dies perfectly to the Inoculus, but it looks like that's not in the cards for Vasey. Going to get a retreat and a reposition here. Instead, getting the corn. Clearly, there's going to end up with a trap here. It is a little bit weird, and I would like to see Vasey start chipping away at this to open up this sight lane again, because eventually Amarkin may elect to try and come back up here. It's going to be a tough road to walk if Amarkin tries to take the top line again, but we'll see how it goes. So we do get the break. This was going to happen at some point. Yeah, I was going to say, if that the Inoculus can't go here, because it'll die, and it can't go here, because it'll die. Instead, this is going to be a pathway so that something else can come creeping out. Only 5 keys remaining for our blue player, with 9 available for our orange player. The aggression, again, seems to be getting punished. That early Crushmore advance seems to be getting punished. And to be honest, Vasey doesn't really have to do anything. It's just make sure that you don't lose something significant for free. Probably these 3. It would, I guess it's not impossible to lose the corn, but it's probably not going to be for free, because they're going to have to expose themselves to traps or whatever. But in order for the Innocuous to get in range to actually threaten anything, it's going to die. Because the Murder Wing plus an Innocuous hit will spell its doom. The counter then, so you invade, kill the corn, counter by killing one of these, they're both at 800 health. Then the remainder kills the Innocuous, but again, Vasey's up on keys and has the ability to reinforce with the other Phobies or just net new Phobies. We get some stabby action. I was going to say, the Crushmore is going to have to leave. Otherwise, that's dead for freezies, like we've been saying. I'm not sure how A. Markin gets out of this, and I think that it just boils down to, does Vasey make one really egregious error, one like colossal blunder, or multiple small ones? Hey, Big She, welcome. What's good? But there's realistically no way for A. Markin to invade safely, I don't think. Obviously, Stabby's pretty tanky. Even at the reduced level, everything being at level 1. But with only 2 keys staring down 9, Vasey could just try and set up a war of attrition. Now, the Stabby doesn't do enough damage to actually kill the corn. The combination of these two, or these two, is not enough. You absolutely need to have extra help. Even just the Innocuous and Crushmore is not significant enough. So we do get the repositioning here. It definitely makes sense when you're behind like this. You kind of have to death ball and hope that you can either bully your opponent out or collapse on part of their forces and equalize things. So we're taking the pot shots here. This is going to be a dead Innocuous. 1400 health on the sheep. Does the creep get sacrificed as well? Given the positioning here, there's really not many Phobies that could even help A. Markin, like supplementary, I mean. Because you're going to have to juggle everything, but you're going to have to move this anyway, but then stuff will still be out of range. 2800 health on the heart. The sheep has to die, quite clearly, and then I think the next priority target is this, but I don't know if you can get both of them. It's a lot of damage required to get through the 1400 here, and then another 800 when you're going to have to move into range. Down goes the Murder Wing, but Sheep is very much alive so far. Very much alive. Oh, Maggie! That's actually a good heads up. I forgot about Maggie. Because I was thinking, like, Spud can't get here, Jar's not available, you know, those sort of things. So this dies to simply the Murder Wing. This dies to the Innocuous. But you don't have enough damage here to end the game as Vasey. You can't just go in and burn the heart here. Well, wait, could you? So that's 550 plus 8 is 13. Plus another 6. It would be really close. You possibly throw away all your forces, but with 9 keys, I feel like you might be able to have just gone for the throat and just burn the heart, right? Oh, no. No! Ran out of time! The indecision! Is that going to cost Vasey the game? Is that going to cost Vasey the game? Oh no, not like this. I think this is possibly the better play from a Markin trying to block off the heart so that the Murder Wing can't do anything. You can't threaten these Phobies now. Oh no, did Vasey throw? Meatball is live, so that's a dead Inoculus. No, it's not. Oh no. Triple panic point advantage still, though. I think this Quagmire should be here. 700. Because this Quagmire is dead here, but... Actually, maybe this is fine. The Moly Bully, I like this play. I like this play. I think the Moly Bully might have to go here. Yeah. Moly Bully comes in, and now I don't know that a Markin can kill everything. And... Yes. Yes. This is a great play. With the forces split, there's just not enough, or there shouldn't be enough damage to kill these and reclaim points and deal with that Murder Wing. There's just too much HP. Because these are one movers, you just can't reach everything. Moly Bully. Bullying a Markin here. Well played. See, chat, crypto doesn't have to just be Honey Bear mirrors. They said it couldn't be done. Game 1. Going to a Markin. Or to Vasey, rather. Over a Markin. My bad. Said that backwards. GG. My bad. And here we are. Game 2 of the semis. A Markin versus Vasey. This is a Markin's pick. The map, that is. And we're here on the Big House. Let's see what's going on. La Casa Grande. I like it. I like it. Among Us? What? What did I say that was Among Us-esque? I don't even know. Yes, it's 1-0 Vasey right now. Vasey took the first game on crypto in a not Honey Bear mirror. For those of you out there that were doubters, probably if you made it this far in the YouTube video, you would have watched that game already. But we, in fact, did not have a Honey Bear mirror in that game. So this is pretty exciting. A Markin's got to try and equalize the series, force a game 3. Taking the aggressive... This is... Okay, so this is a play that you probably would never see on ladder, right? Because Jar, Snowball, although Snowball would be in an awkward spot to try and connect with this, right? Like Snowball couldn't... Well, Snowball could get there, but you wouldn't be able to get anything else to hit it. Here, there's really nothing from Vasey that can get to this. You can hit it with Corn, but this is a safe, aggressive push. Even with Jar can't kill Cat? Yeah. I guess it... Well, on ladder, it gets weird. Ladder is weird because you never know with levels, right? On level, I think that's probably true. Because Jar is, what, 220 damage at level 1? So it would live. We're actually going to end up with, assuming Vasey doesn't supplement their forces further, going to end up with a 3-to-1 panic point advantage because clearly Cat's going to die and then Cat replaces. But since the K9 is the follow-up, that means that we're not going to see a 3-to-1 panic point advantage for very long if that happens. Who do I think the best 2-key Phobies? It's probably Corn or Cassowary, right? Like, if we're talking regular Phobies, as opposed to Tiny Terrors, although both of those are would still be far and away the best in Tiny Terrors, those are the ones that you see the most. And with good reason. So A. Markand ends up defensively taking this panic point. This cat could still die, but clearly is not going to end well. Oh yeah, Bad Omen. I mean, I do think Bad Omen is up there, but I guess I'm alone in that, or just nobody has it. Or nobody has it at an appropriate level. We just don't see Bad Omen, which is why I forgot about it. Most of the time, if somebody asks a question like, well, what's the best what? If I don't mention a phobia, it's probably because I forgot about it. Maggie? Press X doubt. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Maybe most annoying phobia because of that buzzing noise. Is there a person on the earth that isn't like, it's like nails on a chalkboard? Which, don't get me wrong, it's appropriate and I think it's cool in-game, but if you have a fly or other insect buzzing around you, that is so annoying. My own personal pet peeves aside, we did get a Klepto. Vasey is banking to 5 here. 4 Phobies to 3. However, that cat is kind of vulnerable. Maybe not in this particular position, but A. Markand is once again banking, favoring the bank strategy. Are we going to see a Crushmore? We already have Klepto. Crushmore is the other 6 key that leaps to mind, but as I was mentioning just a few moments ago, probably forgetting stuff. Vasey maxing out with everyone's favorite snot monster. A little Quagmire action. I think we had Eric in chat of the dev team the other day mentioning it was like Bog Monster or something. So I don't think Quagmire is supposed to be mucus. But Quagmire is mucus to me. It's just flowing snot. As opposed to, like, industrial runoff, I guess. Who's the worst balanced phobie? Either Gonzo or Boss. I don't think... Heartbreaker's pretty balanced, I think. Probably feels like... Anybody remember Captain Planet? Where the bad guys in Captain Planet would just be, like, trying to create pollution for the sake of having pollution. Not like, oh, well, we're creating this new industrial factory to make something that has horrendous pollution. It's like, no, we're creating a factory just for the purpose of pollution. It feels like one of those bad guys would invent a factory that creates artificial mucus. Which realistically, I don't know, but I'm sure there might be like a medicinal purpose for that, like, or some other legitimate purpose for having that. But the idea of artificial mucus seems absurd. That is a string of sentences. Oh, Akira. Yeah. I mean, Akira goes so much without saying that I didn't even consider it. Here's the play that we all thought was coming. Crushmore building the castle, locking these Phobies out, and really making it difficult for Vasey to retaliate. Maxed out on Phobies, so you can't put a lobber on the board. You could, I guess, hypothetically dive with this Quagmire, but it will die. There's a lot of hits available, and then you're not even really going to kill this Crushmore. It's possible you could trade Quagmire for Crushmore here. I guess if you dive... Crushmore, or Quagmire here, K9 here, Corn here, Creep here, and then, like, on the following turn, you'd get it. But yes, Akira is far and away the most powerful phobia in the game, in my opinion. Like, it's not even close. So a different excuse for why I didn't mention it this time. As opposed to I forgot about it, it's like, it seems like such an obvious answer. I went with something else. I don't think Heartbreaker is that bad. I think the maps where it is very bad, it's because of the maps. Like, I think the Once lore is a terrible map. So therefore, that's why I think this is bold. Not many people have it, so we don't know. I mean, that is true. I know you're getting the Kappa in there, but, like, that is true. Like, that is a thing. I don't know that it matters. But speaking of things that do matter, Snot Monster is not long for this world, I think. Cat, finish off Quagmire? Muffin? Pass? Yeah, not good. No, this is This is game 2 of the semis, Zonda. We still have several more hours because we got 2 more series minimum. Maybe 1 more game in this one, and it looks like, I mean, unless Vasey pulls something out of their butt, this looks like going to game 3. 6 keys for our blue player, 12 for our orange player. So it's not as though they are out of resources, but this is a panic point of... Yeah, fair. Totally fair. GG. Yeah, I could understand why sending in Quagmire seemed possible. Like, I kind of get it. But... Here we are, game 3 in semifinal number 1. A. Markin versus Vasey. This was Vasey's pick. We're here on Biff's room. Let's see how it plays out. Whoever wins this game, of course, is advancing to the final. We'll have, after this, the second semifinal to break down. But we're getting fairly standard openers. The games are starting to equalize. Overall, I think the Tiny Terrors format has evolved. How has it evolved? It kind of looks very similar, at least early game and a lot of portions of the game, to your standard ladder matches, which is understandable. Many of the commons and uncommons do play into it. I mean, most of the 1 keys are, but things like Corn, things like Cassowary, things like Gin Sting, they all manifest here. Where it somewhat changes, I mean, Klepto also shows up, but we've seen more Crushmores than we probably do on other maps, and we've seen a few other tweaks here and there as people have brought different strategies to the table. So since we have a 600 health cat, 300 and 375 will yield a dead kitty here, but Vasey is not going to be able to claim this panic point. And, of course, Corn and Murderwing, maybe not Murderwing, see? A Markin's second guessing, but Corn will be able to reposition, get a trap here, which will help soften things up, or start trapping up other locations. We'll have to see. The stabby opener is something I personally ascribe to on this map. It often makes your opponent's life exceptionally difficult, especially on ladder. And that's the thing with a lot of the balances and reworks that people talk about. And I mentioned this in the video, but at the end of the day, a Spud. I've seen Spud in the Swiss rounds, but I don't believe we've seen Spud in the top 8 to this point. But the thing is, a lot of people don't recognize that the ladder is skewed by stress levels, and it's difficult to rebalance things when you have imbalances inherently in the way a lot of things show up. Now, you would think in the aggregate overall, things would level out, but that isn't always true. This is somewhat bold by Vasey placing the Cassowary here. It does threaten this Spud. Yeah, you can't... I don't think you can do that. The Spud just kills the Cassowary and then tanks these. And you get nothing out of that. You can hear the puppy moving around. She's deciding to hang out upstairs and bask in the sun, as opposed to down here in the basement with me and watch Phobies. The dog is not really interested in watching Phobies. I don't know why, but she just doesn't seem to care. It's a little weird. I know chat has on multiple occasions said that their various pets will hang out with them and watch Phobies, so always adorable. Get a little reposition here from the potato monster. Of course, the cat trades out ultimately for the cat. Now, Clinico, which has made a significant impact in the Swiss. Vasey loving the creep today? Yeah. I don't mind creep. I mean, what I was about to say is that Muffin and Clinico are available, but there are less healers. And maybe the tempo, by forcing your opponent into those heals, is a more significant loss in Tiny Terrors than it is in typical Phobies play. Now, given the positioning here, this stabby's not really safe. It's 720 plus, that's 1380. So this is a dead stabby if it elects to come in. Now, Vasey could supplement the forces and maybe threaten some of these, but you know that there's traps here. There may or may not... If there's a trap here, this is a dead AWOL for nothing. Supplementing with Boom. I think it's a dead stabby trading for the unicorn. The corn... Alright, with the Maggie follow-up, this is now scary. I think creep idea is to catch a bad position phobie, forcing the healer without losing creep. Yeah, can be. I don't know if that other corn hit went through or that was an undo because it was like weirdly fast. Really? I guess this prevents the boom from connecting, but like the boom is gonna connect. 450, 450. Ooh, okay. So you have to sink 2 hits in from something in order to kill this. But this should be a dead Spud and a dead Contortio. Maggie and Creep clean up this. Boom slides in. Well, you reposition in the correct order, but it's AWOL for 475 and Boom for 550. Vasey's... I think Vasey comes out of this ahead. Really? I guess there's multiple ways to do this. Yeah, this preserves the Boom. Although the Boom does not die to bees. Not incidental bees. It'll die to direct bees. But this looks real bad. This looks real bad. Best game ever. Phobies is a spectacular game. Gotta love them Phobies. I think you could possibly be aggressive about this. You have the surface area to hit with 3 things if you're... Like, if you put the Murder Wing there. Maybe not. This is almost the same situation A-Trend in the last Swiss round. Who was A-Trend playing against then? And which side of this this particular setup was A-Trend on? Innocuous is the follow-up. A-Markand is not out of this. It's only a 2-to-1 panic point advantage. These are not the most impressive Phobies in the world health-wise. I mean, we're talking about a damaged AWOL, for heaven's sake. We'll say 70% health Maggie, half health Creep, and a Boom. It's not exactly the most impressive offense. However, it's still going to take some effort to creep back into position onto this board. I was going to say, the creep has to back up or that it's just dead. It would take multiple hits. Like, you need both to get it, but it would still die, and I don't know that the retaliation would be significant enough to make it matter. How much was Maggie? 450? It actually would yield a possibly dead Innocuous. No, it wouldn't, because the Innocuous would be here. Creep back into position. The puns are real. The wordplay, spectacular. Unrivaled, one might say. I should make that one of the thumbnail quotes. Unrivaled wordplay. I'm trying to figure out what's hanging in Creep's mouth. Like, is that a loose tooth right there, you think, Chad? Can you see that? Because it's swaying back and forth. It's me, Mario. I want to see that movie, chat. Six keys, 12 keys total for Vasey to only 6 for A. Markin. Taking the methodical approach, this is appropriate. All the healers are still available for A. Markin if, you wanted to try and bully this out. Say Clinico, heal it back up. The problem is that Vasey's going to be able to reload in this scenario, and I imagine a Quagmire is going to be one of them. That seems to be one of Vasey's go-tos, as we saw in the last 2 games. Getting pings in Discord chat, just checking. Not the teeth. Yeah, I don't think it's actually a tooth. It's probably like the wraps, or it's supposed to be like maybe that's the side of Creep's mouth and it's decayed and it's just like the shadow, you know what I mean? So like as it's undulating or whatever, it's bobbing, it makes it look like it's in the mouth, but it's really just a shadow because that part of its face is missing or something like that. It could just be spittle. It's like a mummy slug, yeah. I don't know what Creep is actually supposed to be. Presumably some kind of worm. Or larva. But I don't actually know what it's supposed to be. I think it's one of those phobies that is just like, yeah, it's kind of a monster. It's the thing that goes bump in the night. It lives under the bed. There, in fact, is the Clinico. 3 keys remaining for A. Markin. And Venus is the this is bold. I mean, there aren't... Okay, never mind. I was going to say, there aren't too many counter phobies. So if Vasey puts whatever on the board, right? What are you going to counter pick with only 3 keys left? Mildred incoming? Not quite. Not quite. But Venus here, not like this. No! That's got to be the game, right? The healer's wildly out of position. You lose your primary damage dealer. Ugh. 12 keys. I don't know what A. Markin does here. Ugh. It's fun to see small phobies working together to kill something. It's the swarm approach. Yeah, you have to directly target the murder wing. You can't kill it otherwise. 2 hits on the stabby, or from the stabby, also makes this difficult because the stabby can't reposition to try and be in better shape for the Clinico. And of course, oh no, the Maggie lives with 10 health. That means that Boom is going to connect, chat. There are oofs for everyone. Oofs to go around. This game is over. This is not, for the record, this is not BM in any way, and I know I usually joke that Cerberus is the universal phobie sign for I surrender. However, in this scenario, I literally don't think A. Markin can ever kill it. 1,000! How are you going to do that? I just don't think A Markin has the damage. I don't think it's possible. It's not a matter of, oh, well, I step on a bunch of traps. I literally don't think it's possible. Granted, Vasey only has 2 keys left, but A Markin has 0. These are some pretty impressive 10 keys worth of Phobies in this format. Honestly, Hydra and Cerberus are kind of legit here. Not just in this game, in this scenario, but in Tiny Terrors as a whole. There are no yoinks, only boops. A lot of the higher power Phobies just don't exist. You don't have things like Gonzo going, all right, this thing that does way more damage than it has any right to. So, big heaping helpings of hit points and damage. Plus, if he hits, he heals himself 400. Yeah. That whole undead thing. It matters. So, at some point, A Markin and more follow-up. One thing I will say for A Markin is they do have the advantage of traps. They have a little bit of time. And they do have the advantage of range. I guess it's not impossible. I mean, I think you answered your own question on it. You forgot it was Tiny Terrors. So at this stage, we have 1, maybe 2 traps in position. But I don't know where A Markin could possibly put them. And I don't blame A Markin for playing it out. It's the last game. Your tournament life is on the line. You got to go for it, right? But at this point, yeah, I think Vasey just gets all up on you and says, stop me. Which is mostly good luck, friend. I think Clinic goes back up. Oh, Clinic goes not up. Lol. You do need both of these. Hydra, 2 hits from Hydra and Maggie in order to kill the Stabby. But who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. And A Markin can't give much more ground, because if you continue to retreat, the Hydra is going to be on your heart. And that's not good either. Vasey about to perform open heart surgery on A Markin right here. Chomp. Hydra. I hardly know you. This is Polly, Molly, and Die. No! Boom! Not like this. Who's a good boy? Who else is a good boy? Triple panic point advantage. We're looking very much like game 1 between A Markin and Vasey on Crypto, where there just may not be enough time. This is not going to work out. I see what the attempt is here, because the Hydra is going to require 2 hits. You obviously can't let it connect with the heart either. But, yeah, you could just go and punch the heart like this. And that, folks, is in fact the ball game. Checkmate, as it were. I wouldn't move the Cerberus, though. I don't think it matters. But I would not move the Cerberus, or I would put the Droney on the panic point, just so that there's literally no way. However, with 150 heart health, even a 2-to-1 panic point advantage would be lethal. There's no way for A Markin to claim both panic points, or multiple panic points. GG. Well played. We have our first finalist, chat. We have our first finalist. So here we are, semifinal number 2. A Trend's choice here of the big house. Tigi choosing to go first. Let's see how these players play it differently compared to the previous series. We're already seeing some differentiation from what we saw the last time around. Similar phobies, but we're not seeing quite the aggression because obviously this cowbell is here guarding this particular point. We couldn't get the swing in, and we do get a spud early on. Tiny Terrors, of course, limiting players' options to only commons and uncommons, which means that, yeah, we do get your standard set of phobies, but there have been some unique quirks. There have been some subtle wrinkles that have changed the gameplay. Now, this will actually survive. This is only 630 damage compared to the 650 health cowbell. And players are, of course, understandably debating. So once we get a winner from this series, this is, of course, game 1 of potentially 3. They are going to move on to meet Vasey in the finals to see who is, in fact, the tiniest terror. I'm not sure whether to... Hey, Vasey, welcome. Scouting the competition. Excuse me. So, what was I going to say? They doled out the tiniest terror title when we were running Tiny Terrors outside of Fright Night. I'm not sure. Obviously, whoever wins this event will still get the Fright Night title. I'm not sure whether they will also get the tiniest terror title. I'm kind of torn. I think I'm going to give it to them. I think it's appropriate. But I'm not sure. I'm open to be swayed, we'll say. Hey, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. See that emote spam down there? Even though it's like one of the very silly emotes. the front half. You can see an omp in there every once in a while. Ouch, my phobies. All right, we get early. Well, not early, but we get some Crushmores. Supplementing the forces here. This spud is very interesting to me. I want to see how this plays out, whether this really can crack things open for our blue player here, but neither player is now able, like, they're going to have to spend some more turns banking if they want to get something to supplement the Crushmores that are large. But since both of them now have access to a terror form, we're going to get stuff like this. Instead of blocking things off A-Trend is instead opening things up, welcoming arms, and they also, of course, have the one key board advantage, as I'll put it. What does that mean? Well, if they claim it, Tigi claims it, A-Trend can claim it back and ultimately yield the panic point advantage for longer. Notably for these maps and Tiny Terrors as a whole, I mentioned it in the last game, I believe, there are no pulls. There's no Spider, no Octonauty, no Akira, nothing like that. Certainly no Attractor. Although I guess Akira's more rare, whatever. You get the point. Boops are available though, but displacement tools and map manipulation in that fashion are relatively limited. You get Finnegans, you get Slammer Heads, you get Terrorforms, those sort of effects, and you have to try and induce something from your opponent in other ways, which can be more challenging because you can't just force them. Now, we are seeing the matching breaks here. This seemed like a lazy mistake by Tigi. There is just no reason to lose that. And to be honest, I'm curious if A-Trend is willing to flip this panic point. Like, it would probably be better to flip this panic point than it is to cap this middle, because it decreases your opponent's panic points. Yes, they could... My throat's getting dry, chap. I've been doing a lot of talking, chat. So where was I before I almost choked? What I was saying was they should have flipped this. Reason being is that, yes, you could walk one of these up there, but then this Crush more threatens killing, or at least severely damaging, whatever reclaims it. You, of course, still have another 1 key, so you could have done both. Put a 4-to-1 panic point advantage. Instead, it's just claiming this 3-to-2, way less heart pressure, and playing it a little more defensively with the Innocuous, which gets matched by our blue player. I did use Fetch yesterday, even on this map. I saw Fetch show up a couple times. I'm curious, and I mentioned this earlier, whether you're playing or not, if you want to influence future Fright Nights, in my Discord right now, there is a feedback form. And you can put in your 2 cents as to how you felt this event went down, what you feel about Tiny Terrors, what you think about Fright Night as a whole, what you want to see, anything like that. Because I do want people's feedback to try and put on more and better Phobies events. So I'm definitely interested in people's feedback. Let me know. Reach out to me on Discord, even if it's not in the forum, whatever. You want to tell me on stream? Sure. We can debate it on stream. Probably not today. I mean, you can tell me today, but probably won't spend too much time debating it. We have other priorities, chat. So we're playing it very defensively here. Like I said, I still think there's an opportunity potentially for A-Trend to be aggressive, aggressive, and take that top left panic point. But A-Trend disagrees, and who am I to disagree with A-Trend? Instead, A-Trend deploys a Gin Sting. It's the day of the sheep and gas, chat. We've seen some very successful sheeps today. Will this be one of them? Now, notably, we should have Terraforms back online. Well, one's online. This one will be back online shortly, but we are maxed out on both sides. However, A-Trend has a slight advantage in this scenario. 1, they have 3 extra keys than their opponent. 7-4. 2, they already have a 1 key on board, so they could play it one of 2 ways. Play it defensively, let Tigi come in, because they're going to have to sacrifice something significant and relevant in order to cap a point, because again, unless something happens, game goes in favor of A-Trend. Or they could be aggressive and say, I'm going to backfill and not have to worry about it. Now, in this case, it is possible for Tigi to pick off this cowbell. That would make whatever they end up killing it with super vulnerable. There might be some Terraform plays. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. You don't have enough things that can hit this. And that's before you consider these 4. I think this is probably fine. This is probably fine, because if the sheep comes in, or the spud comes in, you kill it. What we could get from Tigi here is just like an enormous shove. Just like send with everything, and then hope that A-Trend makes an error, but I don't think that's going to happen. This is a good pick, though. This is a good pick, because there's not enough really in range. The Innocuous, I was busy thinking about some of the other stuff, and I didn't realize immediately how exposed this Innocuous was. It was weird, because I was clicked on this, and then I was clicking on it. It was making the Innocuous flash. But yes, Innocuous. Down it goes. Down. Does A-Trend go down, though? Ooh, the trap is there to soften this up. There might be enough damage to eliminate this now, but the counterattack is going to be substantial. It's going to be a significant counterattack, as this sheep is going to 2-for-1 stuff. Maybe not 2-for-1, but it's going to hit at least 2 things. Alright, so this will end up with the... Oh, no, it won't! 295 health, not like this. You have to direct hit with the Gin Sting. No. As we say in the business, Ouchtown, population you, bro. Is this the most appropriate response? I don't know, but most of the responses are not going to look good. We do, in fact, get a snot monster. No, we don't. Hevo. 2 keys remaining to 4. This does leave the Muffin open as a potential option, but I imagine the Crushmore is just dead. Is the Fart Explosion going to go down, though? Or is this enough damage? 570. Ooh. Yeah, you have to commit with everything. Or I guess it wasn't, it was 570 without it. Crushmore, just a bit too tanky. But it is, in fact, a 2-for-1. Well, I don't even know if the sheep dies. Yeah, the sheep will die. It's going to require 3 hits, though. It's going to require 3 hits. Clinico to supplement the forces. I don't know about that because these are all fairly fragile. Sub 1,000 health. So, like, they're going to die. The difference here, though, is A-Trend can't really heal that well. However, we are looking at a panic point advantage once again. Get the block here to lock out the Innocuous. That's cute. That's cute. I like that. So is A-Train going to invest in a 2-key or Muffin and a 1-key? It's in fact Cassowary. Feeling confident with the amount of HP they have, all this damage is in fact permanent now. Assuming they pass turn, that is. So now Tigi's in a weird spot. Still 1 key remaining. Could, of course, pop out a Muffin. But as mentioned before, was this Clinico heal really worth it? Granted, now that this is at 800, you can't go single hit to kill it. This is not enough damage. You have to connect with these 2. Or multiple hits from the Hevo, something like that. But at some point, Tigi's going to have to try and claim this point. Ooh, the heal's going down on Spud instead. Same sort of story, except now you need 3. And here's the 1 key in order to flip the panic points. Or not. We're getting an AWOL. AWOL is safer here. We know there's no longer a trap. And there's no way for A-Trend to snipe it at this stage. This is very tense, because this could go either way. It's really going to depend on how Tigi sets up on their next turn. If they're able to reclaim this panic point and set up in a defensive posture such that A-Trend can't safely reclaim it or push their team, it's going to be tough. Terraform is not back up yet, so there isn't a cute play to be happening there, although I don't know that there was really anything that would work anyway. Tigi probably has placed a trap here now. So that means that you can't even necessarily quickly claim this back. You may lose whatever goes on there, especially if it's the Cassowary, obviously. And suddenly, how the turntable... That's an interesting choice. So one thing that could be done by A-Trend here, leave this alone. Swing the Crushmore here and block here. That means you get 2 hits from the Spud, which would be 660. 1 hit from this, so that's 1,020. And it'd be 1,420. And then 1630 if the Clinico comes in. And you may end up... Well, no, because we said there was a trap here. So that means... Yeah, if you go in here, this is a dead Crushmore. Never mind. No, this is twice in one game! Is that worth it, though? Is that worth it, though? Seemingly not. Spud is going to die. And then you possibly don't have enough damage between these three to keep these away. And we're getting a leap. I feel like this makes sense. You just kind of have to go for it as a trend. You have the hit points. Now you're going to have a buffer here. Clearly, Cassowary dies, but there's no way that this and this die. And if your opponent stays, they're going to lose stuff again. Like, you're going to win this attrition war. Oh my god! Okay, the math suddenly got really weird. Can you win Innocuous Clinico versus Hevo? Because this is a dead Crushmore. But that means it's a dead Spud. Oh, I see what's happening. So the Clinico is going to finish this off so the Spud stays healthy. That's a better play. That's a much better play. Hevo kills this. 6, so you take 1,000. I think Tigi's got this. I don't think there's any way that Hevo can do this, because you can't kill the Spud. You certainly can't kill something and the Clinico. You could kill the Innocuous, but these two are going to do enough damage to run you down. I think that's our ball game. This should be our ball game, folks. This is why we need the permanent health. Really? I mean, it kind of doesn't matter, but I feel like you just stay there. Well, I guess you lose the Clinico if you stay there with another hit, and the other hit doesn't matter. Yeah, it matters. Yeah, GG. Got him. Game 1 in the books. Game 2, semifinal number 2, A-Trend versus Tigi here on Crypto. A-Trend's map choice, we'll see what they have in mind, trying to claw the series back into a Game 3, down 1-0 at the moment. This has been pretty exciting so far, chat. We've definitely had some interesting setups throughout this event. Definitely had some very interesting plays from pretty much everybody, and some unique phobie choices. So as I mentioned before, let me know either in my Discord, in the feedback survey, or just in general. Let me know what your thoughts are on Tiny Terrors, what your thoughts are on Fright Night events, anything we can do to try and improve them. So we do get the early-ish Terraformer. Could, of course, been turn 1, but the Corn and Cat were more important to A-Trend to get advanced. How is Tigi going to respond with 4 keys? Are we going to see the Honey Bear Mirror? Or are we going to get a more aggressive game as we saw earlier on Crypto? You can hear the subtle tones of the Phobies theme music in the background. I do find myself humming the Phobies theme song, occasionally, chat. The counter Terraform is in fact deployed. And the bank to 4. That means we're probably going to see Honey Bears, at least from Tigi. We'll see if A-Trend has something cooked up. I mentioned earlier, but a number of people grimaced when it turned out that Crypto was back in the map pool. It does seem that most people favor the Honey Bear game plan. And honestly, the players who have been more aggressive on this map have trended toward losing, which is problematic for a variety of reasons. We talked about it extensively both for map discussions as well as balance reworks and other discussions that I think the game as a whole could stand to be pushed in a more aggressive direction. This map, Innocuous and Honey Bear, is very strong. You are correct. It is really the thing, I think. As I mentioned, players who have tried to play either without those tools or with more aggressively minded plans have faltered. Now, maybe there are aggressive lines that can be taken. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. There just isn't enough damage to kill the... Really? Really? I mean, that's a thing you can do. Wow, and the trap was up here. That is rough. Welcome to all the first-time chatters in chat. Rip Tigi. Yeah, that doesn't feel good. Feels bad, man. You're trading 3 keys for 3 keys, or 4 keys, actually. Because you're going to lose the cat. You're going to lose the corn. You could put the Gravedigger here to body block for the corn, and then that pushes the Murder Wing to have to go on this spot. So A-Trend maintains their Gravedigger, their Terraformer. Tigi maintains their Trapper. Which would you rather have, chat? I feel like I would rather have the Terraformer. This map, as mentioned, devolves often into Honey Bear mirrors, and that means that a lot of the traps are generally going to be deactivated. But Innocuous is the phobia of choice out of Tigi. A-Trend has not banked at any point thus far, so there's no chance for a 4 key. At least not yet. And instead, we're getting Stabby positioned on the stem, which I know everybody loves to see. 675 damage Stabby? Sure, why not? That won't give anyone nightmares. Or indigestion. Or diarrhea. I don't know how the last one would happen, but you never know. It's the baby! Hi, baby. Who's a good baby? Come here. Probably. Because what you could do is fly this in, and then put the Innocuous here and snipe this, but I don't know that that's worth it. Because you're going to get a damaged Innocuous, trade out Murder Wings. Yeah, you probably just lose both. I don't think the Innocuous will live, because it's only going to be at 400 health due to the lava. Rushmore, so Tigi can get a Terraformer back. Of course, a Lob as well. But no indication of trying to fight for these panic points yet. Notably, neither player is interested in trying to set up the Honey Bear play. I know I keep coming back to it, but that has been so common. It's like they heard me. Maybe I should have just let it go, and then we could have threw the Honey Bear to not happen. The question becomes, will A-Trend answer with their own Honey Bear? 7 keys remaining for our orange player, 8 for our blue. I'm getting hungry, chat. That cheesesteak upstairs is calling my name. Why does A-Trend's Innocuous pull the light out and readjust it more than Tigi's? I've watched it do it now 3 times, and this is the first time I've seen Tigi's do it. I'm sure it's just where I'm looking at the time, and I just keep missing it, but, like, that seemed really weird. Dueling 1 keys here. Bachelor is cute, but I don't know how much it's going to matter. The damage is, you know, the damage is not irrelevant. But the displacement is probably just not going to happen, right? And of course we're in this weird spot where, what? Misclick. Yeah, I don't think you want to do that because, yeah. So this means that Tickle shouldn't be here. Get the power down here on the panic point. I don't hate that. Notably, A-Trend is maxed out. A-Trend is maxed out. Now, obviously, the Bachelor is going to eat it during this process. 7 keys is available are available to both players now. All remaining 7. Wait, really? What? Oh, that's cute. That's cute. I like that play. I'm watching the Bachelor. I'm like, why would you attack? You're not going to send the Bachelor in? Now, the Gravedigger is going to die. But that is a cool heads-up play. Is that worth it, though? So, the Innocuous cannot single-handedly kill the Stabby. And, of course, there's the displacement effect from the Stabby. But it is... there's the potential that both of these die this turn. I mean, this kills this. This slides over and kills this. The problem is that your Innocuous as Tigi will die unless you get help, like the body block. Ooh, this is interesting, doing it this way. I think this Innocuous is still very dead. Yeah, this Innocuous is very dead. Quagmire, the penultimate phobie out of Tigi. I wonder if this was intentional or ran out of time. Because if you put it here, it's in range of Innocuous, but I don't think that matters. Yeah. Snipe this, thanks to lava. This comes in and kills here. And A-Trend is maybe not in an overwhelming position, but definitely in a commanding position here, if they can answer the Quagmire. This is not a legal phobie. We have our first error. For anybody that's curious, yes, you are allowed to undo things. You are allowed to undo. The rule is if you end turn. The rule is if you end turn. Because that would be an unrecoverable board state. You can't fix that once it's on the board. It irreparably damages things. I mean, we could say, hey, you have to send the phobia into the corner and you can't use it for the rest of the game, but then it's just like another thing. I think this is surrender from Tigi. Yes. GG. The honey bear lost, chat. The honey bear lost. But here we are. The series decider between A-Trend and Tigi. Let's see how this goes. We definitely had some interesting games on the previous 2, Big House and Crypto. So we're going to see what happens here. I love that Tickles is getting so much use. Whoa! The solo Gin Sting. A-Trend says, I don't care. There's actually not enough damage here to kill this Tickles, right? There's not enough damage to kill this Tickles. Was this an arithmetic error from Tigi? This might just be an arithmetic error. Thinking that you would, oh, well, it's a 1 key. I can hit it twice and kill it. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. It seems trivial, but it is significant because now you have to put in that much extra effort in order to actually remove that thing. Another attack, possibly another move and attack need to get invested. Yeah, the Tickles is probably not going to kill something, but it's going to reclaim a point that you didn't want to have to do that later. So we get the follow-up from A-Trend here with the Stabby. Tickles MVP. Look, my man is making a strong case for themselves. Tickles is making a strong case. I mean, look at this. You can't... Look at Tickles. Look at Tickles. It's just adorable. I forget what sci-fi movie it was. There's probably several where there's monsters that, like, they look super cute, and then inevitably, like, the kid character or whoever the innocent character in the movie is like, look at this adorable thing I found, and then they bring it into the enclave where, like, the walled garden, and then the thing turns into some horrific monster and starts tearing everybody apart. That's like a fairly common trope, and that's kind of what Tickles feels like. Klepto, another perennial powerhouse, both in regular Phobies as well as in this particular format. Tigi with only 3 keys available. Like, this board position isn't bad. This doesn't look like an insane board state in general. Ooh, we're going to get a takedown on this corn? I don't like this. So the saving grace here... No, that won't work either. Yeah, I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all because if this comes in, that means 2 hits from Klepto go down to kill this and damage this. Stabby advances. Because this is going to get hit by a trap. Like, there's 100% a trap here. There's no way there's not. It's been way too many turns. I should have my Madden drawing board up while we're watching these. I almost, in all seriousness, have considered getting, like, one of those drawing tablets to attach for when I do that, rather than doing it with my mouse, just because it kind of annoys me. And I like the idea of having a, you know, well, it would be a stylus, but like a pen to do it, but it feels like a frivolous expenditure. I don't just have money to incinerate, chat. This is an aggressive Klepto push. I don't know about this. You get 2 hits, 1 hit, 1 hit. 370. So that's 720. 13. Not enough to kill the Klepto. That's a dead potato if you do that. Alright, so we're going in on the corn once again. I still don't like this. I do not like this. I think if you're going to do this, you kind of need, like, the corn has to end up here. And then you really get blown out. This is exactly why it mattered that that Tickles lived. Because now the Tickles can come back in cleanly, reclaim this point, and Tigi has to go through this whole configuration all over again, this whole process. All of this could have been avoided. Granted, the game probably would have played out wildly differently. So the Klepto is electing to stay in position, even though it is quote-unquote vulnerable to the Spud. Tickle's OP on this map. It appears to be the case. Innocuous is the follow-up. 8 keys remaining for A-Trend. They'll have 5 next turn versus Tigi with 12. Tigi's not out of options. This game is certainly not over, but they're not in a particularly fantastic position. This is a lot of HP to chew through. A lot of things that are going to have to be expended in order to make this happen, and they're going to get pot shots taken at them by this Innocuous. Now, the Innocuous is going to have to be in a vulnerable position. It's going to have to be where the corn is, which means that things can collapse on it to try and kill it, but notably, these do not do 400 damage apiece. Although this does over 400 damage, so it's not going to be too difficult. Innocuous rounding out the team for our orange player, leaving both players with 8 keys remaining. That is a wildly aggressive Klepto. Wow. I don't hate it. Do I? If it's here, this and this can hit it, and so can... Yeah, that's probably not worth it. 450, 850, 11, 12, 20. It wouldn't die, but it's going to be questioning its existence. Absolutely going to question its existence. A-Trend naturally being very cautious with the advance here. I don't think anything's exposed. The Innocuous can die. However, it would probably yield a dead Jin Sting and Murder Wing, so I don't think it's worth it. Klepto's very good on this map. I think Klepto's good on every map. In all seriousness, it was a joke on stream. Well, not a joke, but somebody was saying that they never use Klepto and they never see it. Now, one of those statements, and I said it at the time, one of those statements I can believe. If you have Hematic Jin Sting at an appropriate level, I could see choosing Jin Sting over Klepto basically all the time. Like that's a fair thing to happen. Not seeing Klepto is something that seems strange. Like, Klepto shows up not in every game, but very, very frequently. All right, both players choosing to bank to 8, mostly on Tigi's side because they have to, on A-Trend's side by choice. We're going to see if there's an invade here. There are options here. Like, you could snipe, say, their Innocuous, keep your Innocuous pretty safe, and beat up on their team. I don't know if that's worth it. The safer play is, of course, to play safely and instead just not do anything. Because the combination of Klepto and Innocuous will yield a dead opposing Innocuous. Instead, we get a Crushmore with the break here. I do like this break. It allows for pot shots to be taken here, and this is kind of a big deal. Yes, your opponent could also do something similar to you, except they can't here. They actually do not have any way to threaten your Innocuous right now. Because Jin Sting is slightly below average damage. Jin Sting is slightly below average damage. Which, to be honest, I think we talked about nerfs the other day. I think Klepto could possibly go down to like 375 damage or something. I don't know how bad that would be, but I could see it. It's already a lob. It has, I mean, by definition being a lob, it's ranged. And it also has splash. While you could make the argument, well, then how come Crushmore gets to still do 400? Splash, I don't know. Terraform is very good. It's very, very good. However, Is it better than being able to just splash everything all the time? I don't know. Maybe Klepto's not good with that level of damage, though. I don't want to... Tigi's in a really weird spot. You have multiple one-movers. You're down panic points. Your opponent has a lobber. You have to dive. One of these phobies needed to be something else. Notably something tanky, because at this point you kind of have to suicide something in, get something else out on the board, and it has to be immediately impactful. You're running out of time. Yes, it's only a 1-0 panic point advantage, but given that the existence of this lobber means that that clock is going to expire much faster than you might think. I mean, hell, this stabby could walk up here just to body block, move the Klepto, and then if this comes back online and you put a block here, I just don't know that you're going to be able to interact in time, let alone win. Tigi needs Terraform. Terraform would help. It would certainly help. I feel as though this Spud has not pulled its weight. Now, maybe A-Trend is fearing some traps here in the center. At this point, okay, well, one just got cleared out. I don't remember where this unicorn was and for how long, but at this point, Tigi's got to do something. They definitely need those 8 keys they can't use right now. Exactly. I think they might have waited one turn too long. The retreat turn, I think, was a mistake. Because now you're like this unicorn is useless. It's going to take 2 turns. Like, take a turn to move and then another turn to get 1 attack. Maybe. And now that it's down here, it might still take another turn to move before it gets to attack again. And now on the counterattack, you probably lose Innocuous and Spud. To be honest, I wouldn't go after this. I think you go after this. Really? Now, A-Trend may be fearing traps here. That's fine. I mean, killing Jin Sting in this, certainly also viable. But Tigi, you're down to 2k health, soon to be 1800. What is your answer? How are you spending those 8 keys to flip this game? Cassowary, the final phobie from our blue player. See, here's the other problem. You need to gear up one more time. You know, like, you can't just send in with your existing forces and then supplement, because your opponent's already in a defensive posture. So you don't have a lot of time. Like I said, I think this might be game right here. You move the Corn here, you move the Klepto here. I don't think they can kill you in time. Cerberus? I mean, I wouldn't have hated Cerberus in general, but it's going to take too long to get online. You move Klepto here, Crushmore here, Corn here. Not necessarily in that order, and you just kill them. A-Trend sees it. Because once again, Tigi is maxed out, and this is too much HP to chew through. Like, you could kill the Crushmore, I think. Oh, they're not doing it. I think you can get the Crushmore. I don't think you can get both of these. And they're certainly not going to take the panic point back from you. Playing it a little more defensively, I guess A-Trend thought that this could have gone south. I think that was a mistake. I think A-Trend wins if they go for that. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but I think A-Trend just wins on the spot if you go for that. Now, they could just go for it here, too. Because, like, Cassowary kills this, or Innocuous kills this. It doesn't really matter. Crushmore. Corn. Klepto. Now, in A-Trend's defense, when you're in these sort of scenarios, I know I do, and I'm sure other people do. Sometimes you go, hey, what if my math's wrong? And, you know, you're on the clock. There's the stress of being in the top 4, trying to make sure that you don't throw. You know it's getting streamed. So the question becomes, okay, well, what's the least stupid play, not necessarily the best play, which is not good. You want to play to win, not play to not lose, because that can cost you games. But realistically, like, A-Trend's got this locked up. There's no changing this at this stage. This should be the ball game. We might see a Phobie takedown, but with only 3 keys remaining, not even enough damage. Well, actually, you can meatball. GG. We have our finals, chat. We have our finals. All right, chat. So I have some unfortunate news. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we're not going to be able to play out the finals. The winner is going to be Vasey over A-Trend. It's unfortunate. I don't really want to go into details because it's not my place. We're just going to say that there's a forfeit. It's sad, yes. I would have loved to have seen this. It is an anticlimactic ending to what has been a spectacular event, but that's life sometimes. It's okay. It's okay. So we're going to congratulate Vasey on their win. They are, in fact, one of the tiniest terrors. I hope everybody had fun for this event. I hope that everybody is excited for future Fright Nights. If you are not part of the Randoms Thoughts Discord already, that's where information for all these sort of events comes out first. Because it's obviously easiest for me to communicate with everybody there in my Discord as we try and orchestrate things. I try and run Fright Night once a month. And we have the support of the devs. Of course, I am part of the content affiliate program. They're giving us coffee as prizes. And we're going to have to see for July. As I mentioned a few times earlier, I'm not sure if real life is going to allow me to run Fright Night as I normally would. I'm going to see if there are some alternative ways that we can try and keep things rolling just for consistency's sake. If not, we'll be targeting August 2023 to try and get that rolling. So we'll be back tonight with some viewer games. There's a lot to go through. We're anticipating the patch coming up soon, so I expect that when that hits, it's going to break all the replays, so we're going to have to figure out what we want to do. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Again, congratulations to our winner. Congratulations to all of the top 8 finishers, and of course, all the competitors as a whole. Definitely a lot of fun, definitely very exciting exploring this format, watching a bunch of fun games, and hopefully we'll see everybody come back for next time. But that's going to do it for now. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and Black Lives Matter.